Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, scientists say crows can hold grudges for their entire lives and even pass them down to their offspring.
Tony Kornheiser, join the club. That's why I like crows.
No.
I identify with crows.
No, your offspring don't hold
crows.
grudges. I know your children. They're sweet, wonderful, non-grudge holding people. Huh?
They hold grudges.
No, they don't.
They hold grudges.
Don't say that.
Yes.
Lizzie might.
Had the Bears won yesterday, they'd have held a grudge.
Oh.
I can't believe we didn't do a Bears Open. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Ravens lose. The Lions put up 52. And the Yankees need a win tonight. But we begin today with the acknowledgement that there were 6 different exciting last play endings in the early window of the NFL games yesterday. Mike and I talked about this at length, and we're not going to mention any of them here.
No.
Because the greatest ending was in the last late afternoon game standing. Washington threw a 52-yard Hail Mary with no time on the clock that Chicago tipped, and then Washington caught for an 18-15 victory that seemed impossible just 25 seconds earlier when Chicago scored to take a 15-12 lead. Wilbon, how would you describe the finish of this game?
Tony, sadly for me, and this is about the angriest I've been at the end of a Bears game since Double Doink, and maybe even including that. It's like a Second City skit where you've got people starring in this calamity. And it seemed like it was going to be a theft, one of the great Bears victories in the history, the 100-plus year history of the franchise. Instead, a Second City skit starring a guy named Stevenson, who I would suspend or at least bench, a guy named Waldron, whose mistake, whose gaffe is got lost in the Stevenson gaffe, and even including the head coach, Eberflus, whose defense did a great job. They played lights out. They play for him. He does lots of good things, but he did some bad things. And ultimately, this episode is likely to cost him his job. Because, Tony, the play before the Hail Mary, where people like Tony Romo on television in live time, and I'm in a group text with people who've played professional football, a couple for the Bears. In live time, they're saying, no, you can't give up a play here, easy play here, because the quarterback's got broken ribs and he can't reach the end zone unless you give up a 10 to 13-yard pass, which the Bears just conceded. And then Eberflus defended that today. So you have a series of gaffes which undo what is going to be a rousing victory in Washington. And so we can't get over it, Tone. I'm glad. I hate being in Washington today. I hate being here. But in Chicago, this is going to cost Eberflus his job because they're not going to make the playoffs. Their schedule's too difficult. They haven't even started their division play yet with Green Bay, Minnesota, and Detroit. And they lost the game they had to have. And it's too bad because I really was starting to like him and think that he was on to some stuff.
So, as you know, because you arrived at around the same time, I've been a sports writer. I had been a sports writer at the Washington Post since 1979. And I watched every important game that the Washington football team played for 45 years. Yep. And that's because there were none in the last 25 years. There were no important games. Okay? This particular game, it's amazing in this particular sense. You get a game that is going to be, by the end of that game, you know it's going to be one of the greatest victories in the history of one franchise and one of the most terrible losses in the history of the other. You just don't know which franchise it is. Mike, I covered the 3 Super Bowls they won. I covered the Super Bowl they lost. I went, as you did, to dozens of division and playoff games along the way, and I ain't never seen anything like this, as they like to say. Yeah. 2 things stood out to me right away, and you and I talked about them. And I'm going to go through the bells, so ease off a little bit. I was at the Doug Flutie game, had my feet in the end zone in the Doug Flutie game, saw Gerard Phelan 1 yard into the end zone and nobody behind him. You can't let the Washington receiver be alone like that. You have to put a body on him, on Noah. You have to put a body on him. And then last year in the Auburn-Alabama game, when Auburn didn't rush on the last play and they allowed Milroe all the time in the world to pick a receiver, that was a shorter pass, I grant you that. But Jaden Daniels had all the time in the world, and I wondered,
13.
Why didn't you? That thing lasted 30 seconds.
They got a spy. What are you doing?
Why wasn't there more rush to try and make him uncomfortable? Look, I believe that Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams are going to be around a long time, and they may be stars. They may be stars. They're never going to forget this one.
No, Tony, it's unforgettable. It's going to undo one team's season. The Washington Commanders are probably going to win that division because this kid played with whatever, busted ribs, whatever they are ailing, and he played brilliantly, and he gets this throw off, and it's legendary here. And Caleb Williams has to walk out of his hometown where he was going to walk out thinking, I stole one. And instead, Caleb Williams was waving the defenders because he knew and his coaches didn't. And it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable for me. I don't want to talk to anybody from the DMV for a week, at least, please. You're the last person from the DMV I'm talking to. Not even the person who lives in my house by marriage. I have suggested the Ravens could be the best team in football. Well, they were not yesterday. While their AFC rivals, the Chiefs, Bills, Texans, all won, Baltimore fell to the lowly Cleveland Browns 29-24. Jameis Winston passed for 334 yards and 3 scores as Cleveland reached 20 points for the first time all season, snapped a 5-game losing streak. How do you explain this loss by the Ravens?
Well, the first thing I thought of was that the Cleveland team had gone through some sort of exorcism now that Deshaun Watson got hurt, because Jameis Winston is an unlikely hero in this. He had not started a game in the NFL, I believe, since September of 2022 when he was with New Orleans. He was wonderful, and the team responded for him yesterday the way they responded for Joe Flacco last year, where they didn't respond for Deshaun Watson, by the way. Now, we're not even having this conversation. I want to get the guy's name right. Kyle Hamilton. Yeah. If Kyle Hamilton doesn't drop that lollipop interception, we're not having this. But the next time Jameis Winston got to throw the ball, he was money. The larger issue is obviously what's wrong in this situation with Baltimore. They've had 2 inexplicable losses, this one and the one to the Raiders. They got the best running back in the league. They gave him the ball 11 times. Maybe they should have given it to him more. But their MVP accounted personally for about 340, 350 yards and a couple of touchdowns. That's not their problem.
Nope.
Their problem is they yield points late. All the time
Worst
they yield points late. Here's a number that is amazing to me when I heard it today. This is their 8th loss in their last 42 games, where they lost when they were leading in the last 2 minutes. So you know what, Mike? Maybe we shouldn't trust them. Maybe they are overrated and overstated, to use your 2 favorite words, maybe even by you. But I'm backing away.
You know what, Tony? I'm going to back away, too, because their defense, their pass defense, is 32nd in the NFL. So when you've got that, and I understand when you're ahead, teams are going to throw more against you and there's volume. But this is not about volume. I realize they had injuries yesterday, but Kyle Hamilton could have saved them. As good as he is, all pro, you got to make that. You got to catch that interception. You secured the game there. But Tony, this is also about Cleveland. Listen, Deshaun Watson being out, it's like a stench leaving the room. They played better. I called you last week and I said, look at Cleveland without Deshaun Watson. I know it was an injury, a bad injury, an Achilles. You wouldn't wish that on somebody, but they played better without him. And now they're really a lot better without him. And I don't know if they have time to do anything from the place they started but this is largely about him being elsewhere, gone.
We move now to the World Series, where Game 3 is tonight in Yankee Stadium, and Shohei Ohtani is in the lineup batting leadoff for the Dodgers, who have won the first 2 games of this series because their home runs have counted for more than the Yankees' home runs. Wilbon, are you focused on what the Dodgers are doing or what Aaron Judge and the Yankees are not?
No, it's not Aaron Judge. The Yankees choked. I said to you, and I asked you, I know I didn't have a real definitive feel about it, and I said, Tone, don't you think the Yankees choked in Game 2? Because they did as a team. It wasn't Aaron Judge. There were people on base. You got the bases loaded. You're in clutch situation. Somebody's up there swinging at a sweeper that's 15 feet off the right corner of the plate. So, no, I'm not blaming Aaron Judge for that. The Yankees are a great team. They're the American League champions. They have to produce. It is not just left up to Aaron Judge. They got a lot of people making a lot of money, and he ain't making the only money in that lineup. So the Yankees better pull themselves together and get some timely hitting tonight, because they got a chance with bullpen day, and I don't know what to make of the pitching, but I'm blaming the Yankees as a team.
Yeah. So when you take a 2-0 lead in the series, that's wonderful because historically teams with a 2-0 lead are 44-10 in the World Series. But neither you nor I will count out the Yankees before their first home game with the kind of power they have. They need to beat Walker Buehler tonight. He hasn't pitched in 12 days. The last time he pitched 4 innings. Maybe that's enough the way Freddie Freeman is hitting, but I don't think it is. And as you mentioned, a bullpen game is next, so we could be looking at 2-2. But I am going to focus a little more on Aaron Judge than you are for this reason. Like Shohei Ohtani, he commands the big moments. Unlike Shohei Ohtani, who's just with the Dodgers this first year, Aaron Judge has been with the Yankees for 9 years. He's an acknowledged leader. They made him the captain.
Yep.
When you have just 1 hit in 9 trips and you have 6 strikeouts, you have to do better than that. And Aaron Judge himself said, I got to step up. And if not now, when? That would be my point.
You better step up tonight.
That's right. That's right. Let's take a break. Coming up, how impressive was the Niners' win over the Cowboys?
And was Notre Dame's pasting of Navy the biggest headline of the college football weekend? Not to me. Not if I'm right.
I've not seen anything like that ending. It's the first time since 1977 that there were game-changing touchdowns in the last 30
guess
seconds.
Who was in that?
Pardon the Interruption is presented by The Refreshing.
It's time to hear it from the hoi polloi. Let me see what's first.
Mail time!
In the NFC, the Niners, Lions, Packers, Eagles, and Falcons all won. Which was most impressive?
Lions and Eagles, but the Lions. The Lions hung 52. I know it's a bad team, but they hung 52. They threw for 85 yards. 85 yards passing. They beat you however you want it. They have return yardage. They have turnovers that turn into touchdowns. The defense, I know Aiden Hutchinson has not been required. He's not there, and his presence has not been required these last 2 games without him, these first 2. Tony, the Lions are the best team in the NFC. The Eagles are recovering, it seems. They're 5-2. Yeah. They're going to be dueling with the Commanders to get the Cowboys out of here. But it's the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, of course the Lions had the most impressive win. It's 52 points, and they're basically kneeling down in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
But the team they played is terrible.
Bad team.
The Falcons go out on the road, and they beat a division rival. But they beat a division rival whose 2 best receivers aren't available. The Packers again win on a last-second field goal. That gets a little shaky after a while. And is Dallas any good?
No.
Is that a big win for
Dallas
the 49ers? So I'm going to go for the Eagles. And I'm going to say that because Cincinnati had won 2 in a row and was beginning to look like a good team.
That's fair.
And they had a home team. And everyone was saying that Nick Sirianni was ruining the Eagles. Well, they again go on the road, and if I'm not mistaken, they win 37-17.
Crushed them.
So
the last 20.
Yeah, so right. To me, the Eagles have, and it's not
fair.
It's not more impressive than the Lions, but I thought it was a tougher team. Tougher test.
Oh, it definitely was a tougher opponent by a lot, no doubt about that.
Yeah. What's your headline from the college football weekend?
Tony, it's going to be different than a lot of people. And I'm not going to Notre Dame, Navy. Navy had like 27 turnovers, and they were just, it seemed so nervous on the stage. And I feel bad because I ain't going to lie, I was rooting for Navy. Just like I'm going to be rooting for Army coming up. But I'm going to go with Indiana. Indiana remains undefeated. Curt Cignetti, who right now is coach of the year, I know there's a long way to go because Indiana has got to simply go out and beat Michigan State, which is up next, and at the end they got to beat Purdue. But in there, Tone, are going to be games consecutively against Michigan and at Ohio State. That's going to determine their whole season. That's going to determine a lot for the future of the program. But to this point, Indiana, who I've seen in person once, has been tremendous. They get no love. They're still not ranked as highly as they should be, but they got the two teams in front of them that could change everything, including the story of the college football season.
Yeah, I could probably start and talk about Oregon blasting Illinois or Notre Dame blasting Navy, but as you're suggesting, these are generally expected to be the outcomes in those games. I thought Alabama did a good job. They beat a ranked team, and they beat them badly. They beat them 34-0. I thought that was an impressive win. I thought Texas A&M had an impressive win. I believe in the second half against LSU, it was like 31-6 for Texas A&M. And so now Texas A&M, which lost to Notre Dame early, both those squads, Texas A&M and Notre Dame, are alive now for the college football playoff.
Yeah.
I would say this. But, Mike, I cannot stop fixating on Florida State. Miami beat Florida State 36-14. Florida State was 13-0 last year and did nothing but complain and whine that they weren't in the college football playoffs. They are 1-7 this year, and if that's not karma, what is karma? That's karma. Enough email. Let's take one last break. Still to come, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets lose for a fifth straight time.
And the Steelers try to move to 6-2 against the G-Men tonight. Yeah, some people, there's a quarterback in Cleveland who's out now who you could talk about karma. You could.
Yeah, I know. But I need to move off Florida State probably, but it just
they're done.
It's unbelievable.
They're more done than the Cowboys and the Jets. How about the Jets? How about them?
1-7. No, Jets. Done.
You mean Devontae Adams is not going to save their season?
Happy time, people. Happy belated 27th birthday yesterday, Lonzo Ball. There was a time when Lonzo Ball was the most talked about young basketball player in the country. When he was at UCLA and his father, LeVar, was all over the place touting his shoes and his sons who wore them. But Ball's NBA career never quite lived up to the hype as he went from the Lakers to the Pelicans to the Bulls. Then he got hurt in January of 2022, a torn meniscus, and he hadn't played since. He was out for about 1,000 days when he made his return to the NBA last week, playing 14 minutes, getting 5 points, 4 assists, and 2 rebounds as the Bulls lost to New Orleans. Well, Von, your Bulls have about 300 point guards. What's Lonzo Ball's role going to be?
Tony, I don't know, but I know this, that Lonzo Ball did have a tantalizing stretch when he was the leader in a million ways of a team that was the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and he got hurt. A crushing injury, another crushing knee injury to a basketball player in Chicago. We've got some experience with that. I hope Lonzo Ball makes it all the way back. But when he was at his best and coming into his own, it was quite impressive. I hope he can get back there.
Happy anniversary, Steve Pierce. On this day 6 years ago, the all but unknown Boston utility man was named MVP of the World Series after the Red Sox beat the Dodgers 4-1. In Game 4, Pierce hit a game-tying solo homer of Kenley Jansen in the top of the 8th. In the next inning, Pierce hit a bases-loaded double to give Boston a lead it never gave back. And then in Game 5, Pierce hit a 2-run home run off Clayton Kershaw and later added a second home run. Pierce was the first Red Sox player to hit 3 home runs in the World Series since Carl Yastrzemski in 1967. Pierce became proof that fate works in mysterious ways in the postseason. So who knows, maybe Tommy Edman will become this year's Steve Pierce.
Tony, I was just wondering, so how many games did Pierce play after that? The answer apparently is 99 games the very next season for the Red Sox, and then poof, gone. That was it. But talk about saving your best for last. I mean, you leave the game and you got that trophy, you got that accolade in a World Series. It's a pretty good way to go out.
Certainly is. Happy trails to 2 more WNBA head coaches. The Indiana Fever parted ways with Christy Sides over the weekend. And then just hours ago, the Connecticut Sun did the same with Stephanie White. Let's start with Sides. With Rookie of the Year Caitlin Clark, the Fever overcame a 1-8 start, finished the regular season 2020, making the playoffs for the first time since 2016. And White's Sun finished 28-12, finished one win short of the WNBA Finals. The Chicago Sun-Times reported that the Fever are interested in White, so the two moves may be connected. But this is now 7 of the 12 WNBA coaches who are out. This is insanity to me. If at the end of an NFL season more than half the head coaches were fired, you would go crazy, Wilbon.
Well, that would mean it would be like, 18 coaches out of the 32. We don't have that. But Tony, there's so few teams, and there's a glut of talent. All right, both physical talent players and intellectual, and executives and coaches, and you only have 12 teams, and you got a lot of talent worldwide. They got to find some spots, and that means they're going to have to increase the number of teams, expand in the WNBA. You got to make room
doing that.
for some of that talent.
Well, they're doing that.
Okay.
Aren't they adding
They need
3
to.
teams in the next
Need
2
to.
years?
Yes.
This is crazy. You're firing people with winning
Evolution.
records.
Yeah.
No, it's not evolution.
Evolution, it is.
Insanity.
It's growing pains.
Insanity.
Evolution.
Let's go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
The Jets lost to the Patriots. Their first straight loss. You have any insights
Here's
into
my
that?
insight. Oh, the Jets. They're supposed to be such a great power this year. The Broncos beat the Panthers. Now 5-3. You impressed with Denver?
Yeah, one coach in this thing, Sean Payton, was maligned on this show last year. He's a great coach.
Yeah.
Cardinals edged the Dolphins in Tua's return. Your thoughts?
Tua had a 13-yard run, Tony. I was so glad he got down and slid. He played pretty well. The offense was better, but, he was safe. Monday Night Football features the Giants and Steelers. You interested in that?
I'm going to watch secondarily to the World Series, but, the Giants can't win. They're 31st in the league in offense. Last one, Celtics, Lakers, Cavs. All try to move to 4-0 tonight. Do you like your chances?
The Lakers, not so much maybe at Phoenix, but they've been impressive. I'm impressed with Oklahoma City. They're trucking people. That's who impresses me.
Yeah. Yeah, small little note, they're not playing tonight, or I think tomorrow night.
And
We're out of
Wednesday.
time. Try to do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Actually, I am. Same time
you?
tomorrow,
Are you?
knuckleheads. And now to get you set for Monday Night Football, here's Scott Van Pelt and the Countdown crew. That Bears thing has to be.
It is a beautiful